Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of TNMCoaching Unplugged and Zoran Todorovic Interconnected Podcast. I'm so grateful and happy to be with you once again, and thank you so much for growing our podcast worldwide by sharing. There's a lot of comments, especially in the Spotify platform, how much your family members benefit from this podcast. I'm so grateful and happy to see that some of you are taking time, energy to keep on expanding and sharing those resources. And that means a lot to us because we know we touched your heart and we touched your soul. As always, in our podcast, we have special guests who are helping you to become that better version of yourself, to elevate your thinking, to elevate how you feel, and to also elevate how you connect to yourself in order for you to become that best possible version of you. And today we have a very special guest, Tony Cee. Tony is a passionate expert in the science and art of habit change. With a background as a certified neuroscience coach, he's also an entrepreneur, trainer, speaker. He is a founder of Micro, Mega, an educational and motivating community that helps people build consistency through micro action. And his approach is inspired by the latest neuroscience research, which offers guilt-free, carefully designed method for busy people like yourself to achieve remarkable and lasting transformation. He is originally from Montreal, Canada, French speaking, of course. Now we're going to challenge him to speak in English, which is absolutely fun and wonderful. Today, Tony lives in Portugal with his wife in their beautiful guest house. Welcome, Tony. Glad to have you with us today.
Hey, thank you, Zoran. It's an honor to be with you today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Lovely. And let's just dive into it because this whole topic on the habit change is really a significant one. I just have to share you that you and I recorded the Instagram Live, and I did get a lot of direct messages on my Instagram afterwards saying how impactful and insightful it was for people, especially nowadays when a lot of the people are actually struggling to get out of these habit loops, people who really want to live good life, people who want to transform, they want to change, but something is holding them back. And, they're efforting, trying, but something is holding them back. So it was a very nice commentary after our Instagram Live recording. So I would really love to kind of jump a little bit deeper into audience knowing you, and, sometimes people always need to know, who are you? How did you come to this point? So my first question to you is, what has started your journey to becoming more interested in science and art of habit change? What happened in your own life to inspire and activate this passion or desire?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So it really started without me knowing it around 2007 when I graduated from my bachelor degree in biotechnology in Ottawa. So I'm a scientist at base, and I studied biotech. And during this special night where it was the graduation night, the students decided we had a vote a couple of days prior to this event to decide who was there was 3 prizes that were going to be given to the students by the students. One prize was for the student who had the best academic marks during the 4 years that we spent together. The second prize was for the funniest person of the group. And the third prize was for the person who was procrastinating the most. And Zoran, I'm kind of proud and also ashamed a little bit to say that I won this prize. I'm very proud actually, because looking back, it all started, my interest in habit change. And so this prize was given from a place of love, and I was very proud to receive this prize. But, this procrastination thing stuck with me for multiple years later after that. And it kind of created a challenge within myself, because when you are this last minute person, you always end up doing work that is, okay work. It's not amazing work. It's just okay. And deep within, I knew that I was, capable of more. I was capable of doing excellent work, but I was never, really doing it because I was so last minute. So this gap between what I knew I could do and what I was really doing was getting bigger and bigger. And it was very challenging for my self-esteem. And so at some point, I really thought my brain was kind of broken. I started to look into books, into videos, courses around the brain, around procrastination, motivation, and this led to me, learning a lot of knowledge about how the brain works. And in 2018, so maybe a decade later, I challenged myself and I said, you know what? I have a lot of stuff, a lot of techniques, a lot of knowledge. I need to test it on myself. So I challenged myself to publish one a video every day during 1 year, a video where I would share, positive insights or tricks related to the topics that I was interested in during the previous decade. And to my big surprise, I managed to be this consistent guy and do this important thing for me for every day during a full year. And in the meantime, I got my certification as a coach, and it kind of gave me the proof that, I had some good tools. And so if I was able to change myself, anybody could do it, basically because I was from this, last minute guy, procrastination king, to being able to help people build consistency with the important things in their lives.
Yeah, and I also want to share, that was specifically commented after our Instagram live that people are saying, "My God, how wonderful it is that you managed to do this for a year, that you managed to challenge yourself and stick to it and record video per year, because that really shows the commitment, determination, overcoming procrastination in action." So I'm really happy that you can role model this for others, because few people really responded to that. They said, "I wish I could," right?
Yeah.
So I wish I could do that. So when somebody, listens to you right now and says, "Wow, this is so inspiring," just that notion of committing to commitment and recording the video for a year, and they say, "I wish I could, but I'm not," what will be your first response to that?
I mean, you need to develop the ability to start doing what you want to do with more consistency. And that's a big challenge, because we usually always focus on the end result, or the big thing we want to achieve. And sometimes the gap is very big between where we think we are and what we want to achieve. And this can be very difficult for motivation, self-motivation, or we can feel really discouraged, and just quit after a couple of days. So the first thing you need to focus on is just starting. And this is very counterintuitive, because we think we need to start hard, we need to go, intense, especially nowadays with social media. We see a lot of end results on the Instagram, a lot of nice people, nice places, nice things, but we don't really see the build-up and all the repetition that was needed to achieve this result. So we are at home looking Instagram, and we see, this person looks so fit, or wow, this person is always traveling, and we're like, oh, if I'd like to achieve a little bit of this in my life, I feel that I'm so far away, so I need to go hard, I need to go intense. But that's the worst thing, to be able to be consistent, because after a couple of days, couple of weeks, you're gonna stop, because you're basically there's an error in the later I'll talk about the habit loop, but you're not respecting the third step of the habit formation. If it's too hard, too difficult, your brain is gonna stop at some point. Motivation is great, Zoran, for at the beginning of the year, beginning of a month, beginning of a week. Science is solid, saying that it's working, but it's working for a very short period of time. And so if you don't have a good system, after a couple of days, couple of weeks, the real life is gonna come back to you really fast. You're gonna get stuck in traffic, your kid's gonna get sick, you're gonna feel terrible for whatever reason. And then if you don't have a good system in place, and if you're not focusing on just starting, then you will not be able to be consistent. So best trick is focus on just starting. And there's a rule, it's called the 2-minute rule, that can be very helpful for listeners. Just start and do 2 minutes of what you want to do, but do it consistently and scale slowly, because you need to first create the habit in your brain before thinking about improving this habit. This is one of the important takeaways I'd like people to remember. You need to build the habit first before thinking about scaling or growing this habit. This is a very important rule, and will help a lot of people if you manage to focus on, go very small. Go think about your worst day during a year, and think about what's the minimal amount you could do during your worst day, and start with this. You don't have to do it every day. You can do it 3 times a week, 4 to 5 times a week, whatever. Decide how many times you'd like to do it, and try to stick to that as much as possible.
What I love about that, focusing on the start, just focusing on the start, is it's a hack. Instead of focusing on the bigger, brighter goal, the accomplishment that can be sometimes overwhelming, when we just focus on start and keep on creating that habit and momentum, then it really works. I also want to highlight for everybody that human operating system that we're talking about, our infrastructure, how our brain actually works, how the neurology of our brain actually works when it comes to habit, is common to everybody. So we all in this together. when we get to understand, a little bit more about how we function as human beings, then it gets easier, and nobody really teaches us that. Nobody talked to us in the school about this is how you create a habit. This is why momentum is important. If you're lucky to have a good coach or good teacher or somebody who's a little bit more out there, then we learn, but basically we don't. So I just want to emphasize for everybody who's listening that we are all in this together, and that the difference is what we're talking about, who's somebody who is practicing certain hacks and tools, who's committing, creating momentum, and somebody who is setting themselves for failure instead of success. So one of the coaching hack, right, Tony, is if you really want to set yourself for success in evolving and changing your habit, one of the first thing is focus, as you said, just on that first step instead of the bigger goal, right?
Absolutely, that's exactly correct. And I love what you added about we're all kind of creatures of habits. The reason why human and animals develop habits is because the brain is lazy, guys. Our brain is lazy by default.
Is it?
Because if you look on the evolution of the humans, it was a good thing to preserve energy. So only if we look back 500 years, maybe we have this abundance of energy. But before, energy was scarce, so it was a very good strategy to not waste energy for no good reason. So the brain evolved in always choosing the easiest path first. And the reason why our brain creates habit is because our brain wants to be able as fast as possible to not have to think about a repeating situation. Let's say you have a toddler and he's learning to tie his shoelace. Okay, so the first time, if you would do a brain scan, as Zoran, of the kids, the first time they try to lace their shoes, like there would be so much activity on this brain scan because it's the first time that the brain sees this particular situation. So the brain is trying to figure out what's going on. So he's gonna watch the bigger person who's gonna show him, and after many repetition, 50, 100,000, today now 10,000 repetition. It's automatic. At some point, it's shifting. It goes to the unconscious part of our brain. So nowadays, as adults, we've tied our shoes so many times, so we don't have to think about it when we do it. We can think about what we're gonna do next. Think about our grocery list, whatever. So now it's a habit. So now the brain doesn't have to spend energy to do it. It does it automatically. It costs less energy, and it really shapes the brain when we accumulate these repetitions. Around 30 days of repetitions, we have we could see a small path of neurons in our brain that so the brain structure has changed. Neurons have come together to make this biochemical influx go a little bit faster, a little bit smoother. After 90 days of repetition, approximately, I say days, but it's actually repetition. So if you do something 90 times, it's going to be faster. If you can do it 90 times in 30 days, instead of you could do it 90 times in 6 months. But around 90 repetition in the brain, your small path will become kind of a small neuronal road, where it's thicker, and now the influx goes faster. And after about 180 to 365 days, then you have a big neuronal highway. And this is when it usually becomes a habit. So now there's no friction anymore. The influx is just automatic, like a nice highway in France or wherever, like 8-lane or something. So
very smooth.
That's very smooth and very doesn't require a lot of energy for the brain. So that's why we are creatures of habit, and we try to develop habit as for repeating situations, things we have to do on a consistent basis. The brain will go for creating habit as soon as it can.
And also, I love what you're sharing, that preservation of the energy was the original starting point. That, that when we talk about brain is lazy, it's preserving the energy. And you just highlighted this. I never thought about that before I talked to you, that, in recent years, it's this time and space when we do have abundance of energy and we can relax around this. But before, it was most of survival and making sure that we have enough. So therefore, the brain was being different in these activities. Now, let's explore this habit loop, because I would love you if you can show the slide and talk to us a little bit more about that formation, what's going on, and then we dive into other pieces, because I really want to kind of set the stage for that.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm going to share this image here for people that are watching on YouTube, and for listeners maybe on Spotify. So basically, I'm sharing this image with showing that there's 4 steps needed to create a habit. So the first step is the cue. The second one is a craving. Third step is response, and fourth step is the reward. So we really need to have these 4 steps, Zoran, to be able to create a habit. If there's a glitch or if there's a step missing, the brain won't be able to create the habit. So I'm gonna give some examples. I'm gonna talk about each of these steps, and I'm gonna explain to people how they can use these steps to have actionable things that they can put in place in their life for helping them create better habits or change bad ones. So the first image that we saw is the cue. So the cue can be many things. Okay, it can be a time of the day. The cue can be another person you're with. The cue could be something we're gonna see in our visual sight. It can be a sound we're gonna hear. It can be an emotion we're gonna feel. Okay, but there's always gonna be something that's called the cue that is gonna activate the second step. So the craving. The craving is when the brain is gonna release dopamine. Okay, so after seeing this thing or this person or being this time of the day, the brain will secrete dopamine. Dopamine is related to motivations, or so like everything we do in our life, like prior to us doing the action, immediately just before, there's some dopamine that is like just me taking this glass of water and taking a sip.
Yeah,
it was dopamine that was released for me to do it. Okay, so the cue is going to activate the dopamine release. So the dopamine will make us want something, like will make us go to the third step, which is the response, which is basically the action or the habit that we want to put in place. Okay, and finally, if we have a certain form of a reward after performing this action, then the brain will have all the 4 steps required to create a habit over time. Okay, so like I said, the cue can be many things. You know, you could see your friend on a Friday night. You're gonna see you're with this person, and you know it's so when you're with this person, you're gonna drink, let's say, 2-3 drinks, and you're gonna go out or whatever,
Right.
But when you're at home during the week, you're not gonna drink at all, because you only drink when you are with this friend, let's say. Or it can be something you're gonna see. Let's say I go back into the house after our recording today, and I see a big platter of chocolate chip cookies, in the middle of the table. Then I'll be like, oh, wow, I want to eat some of those. But I was not going into the kitchen to eat chocolate chip cookies. It's just my wife cooked some this morning, and now it happens that I see them and I want to eat 3 or 4. You understand? So the cue is very powerful, and it's going to trigger this release of dopamine. And then I'm going to want to eat the cookies, and it's going to be satisfying to taste the sugar and the fat in the cookies. So my brain will be like, oh, yeah, that's good. So every time you see cookies, you have to eat some, So
and you get energy. You get sugar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sugar was scarce for many, many millions of years. Now it's only become a problem nowadays, and a big problem. That's another discussion. But so now, how can we use these steps, Zoran, to help people, build a habit that a thing that they want to do with more consistency? Well, you could use the feedback, the habit loop to let's say you want to start to run. Okay, you want to maybe lose a couple of pounds, I don't know, a kilo, and you want to become in better shape. So you want to start running or walking. So a cue would be, how can you make your cue most obvious for the good behaviors you want to be more consistently? So good example that I previously gave when we were talking, off this podcast is, you could put your clothes and your running shoes and your water bottle and whatever, your AirPods on the side of the bed if you're a morning person. So before you go to sleep, you put all your stuff right there next to your bed. And when you get up, the first thing you're going to see, it's going to be obvious. The cue is, oh yeah, my running shoes, my gear. I'm going to dress and I'm going to go out for 2 minutes, to run or whatever for this week, So make it obvious is very important. Just like the cookies, they were obvious. So if you want to stop eating cookies, guys, you need to stop having cookies, easily accessible around you. Yeah. That's the first rule. So remove them and like don't buy them at the grocery store. It's like that would be the best option for you, because if you don't see them, you're not going to think about them, so you won't want them. Okay. The second step, the craving. So how can we, make running more fun? I could, you could choose, let's say, a podcast. So let's say like I really love the TNMCoaching podcast. So I'm going to go, every time I'm going to go out for a run, I'm going to listen to a new podcast episode with Zoran, because I'm going to keep this podcast only for when I go running, because I really like to listen to this podcast, and I'm going to do it with running because it's called temptation bundling. So it's basically you take something that you really want to do with something that you need to do. Okay, so let's say my dad used a strategy for walking on his treadmill during some winter times in Canada. So he has a treadmill downstairs, and he would watch this Netflix show only when he was doing his 30-minute walks. And he was not watching this show with my mom on a Friday night. They had another show for themselves. He really picked this show that he really liked for him, and he was only listening to this show when he was walking on this treadmill. So that's an example of using the second law, the craving, to make our habit or action we want to do it more consistently, more attractive. Okay. The third step was the response, if you remember. So like I said, this is the action. So this is the habit that you want to perform. So, and that's what I said at the beginning. If it's too difficult, if you say I'm going to go run for 30 minutes until I'm unable to walk after that, like you won't be running very long, because your brain will be like, this is not satisfying at all. I'm suffering. It's too difficult. I don't want to do that. So next morning you probably won't wake up, So if you find yourself not doing what you'd like to do with more consistency, look at, is it too hard? Are you going too intense? Are you trying to do it for too long of a time? Is it too difficult? And reduce the amount of time, reduce the intensity. This is a good trick to help adjust, especially at the beginning, because like I said, we want to develop this ability just to start and do this action on a consistent basis. So it's not the performance, it's not the time, it's not the effort that is important at the beginning. It's just starting. So if you don't do it, maybe you're going too hard. So dial down a little bit. And after that, the reward is the satisfaction you're going to get. So at first, you might need an external kind of reward. Okay, and I'll show you. I'll show you some for the viewers. I'm showing this neuronal mandala that I created. It's basically just a picture of a brain with small grid. There's 3 habits that I can track. Each time I do a habit, I'm gonna put some color in inside the box, and I can see in my brain this the neuronal road that is being created. So this is very satisfying at the end of an action to just put some color there and see the progression. It's nice to see, especially on the day that I don't want really to do it. Oh well, look, I've there's a lot of days before that I already did it, so I don't want to break the chain, or I want to continue on my good path, and I want to put this color on this tracker. It's a habit tracker. So you could use a calendar for that. You could use an Excel sheet. There's a lot of mobile apps also. Or a more visual thing would be to have a jar. You could put like anything inside the jar, like a small rock or a coin or whatever, and you could see visually, the amount of repetition that you've accumulated. Because at first, Zoran, you don't believe that you are this kind of person necessarily that you want to become. Okay. And if it's okay with you, I would like just to explain the nuance between, there's 2 ways that we can change our habits. And I think it could be very useful for listeners to understand the nuance between a habit change that is based on an objective or a goal we want to achieve versus changing our habits based on our identity. So the type of person that we would like to become, okay? So I will quickly share this image here for people that are on YouTube. You will see, pardon the French, but it's very easy to understand. So the first one on the left.
Yeah, we also. Go ahead.
So changement d'habitude basé sur les objectifs means habit change based on objectives or goals we want to achieve. So let's say, Zoran, you want to run a half a marathon. Okay, this would be an objective or a goal. So this is the outer part of the big circle here. So it's the objective, the result we want to achieve. Let's say I want to write a book. I want to lose 10 pounds or 5 kilos. We usually start, us as humans, there's something we usually want to achieve that is gonna motivate us to start a change in our life. Okay, so this is based on objectives or results. The second circle after going within. So it's the system or the process. So this is basically the things we're going to put in place, the actions we're going to do, to achieve this goal. And the smaller circle right in the middle is our identity. So our identity relates to our belief system, the things we think are true about ourselves, about the world around you, about the people around us. So so the problem is when we start with an objective in mind, let's say I want to run a half a marathon. This is my objective. So I'm going to run, 4 times a week, for whatever amount of time, I'm going to start 5 months before, so I'll make sure I'm ready. But the problem is if I don't believe that I'm a runner. Let's say nobody runs in my family, like nobody ever did that before. I'm not surrounded with people that are really runners. There might be a clash. It might be blocked. I might think that, I'm not this type of person. So at some point, I won't be able to achieve this goal because my belief that I have about myself are blocking me. I'm kind of in my own way because of the identity that I have right now. So the nuance and what is more powerful is doing a habit change based on our identity. So it's okay to start, Zoran, with a goal in mind, like running half a marathon or writing a book, whatever. But then ask yourself, what type of person could be able to achieve this kind of goal? Okay, so these are very similar, reflection, but it's a very powerful and nuanced one. So the type of person who could do a half marathon is probably someone who runs, on almost every day a little bit, someone that is very consistent, someone that maybe joins a running club, surrounds himself with people who runs a lot. So by asking this simple question, you will find very more success in changing your habit on a consistent basis, because then you can ask yourself at every moment you need during the day, what would a healthy person do in this situation? Let's say you want to lose weight. Would a healthy person take the elevator, or you would walk, the 3 floors of stairs? Would a healthy person eat a hamburger with fries, or it would eat a salad today for lunch with my colleagues at work? So then you can use this as your mantra, like what would a runner would do, what would a musician would do, a writer would do. So the idea here is to not put our focus on one specific goal, but on a type of person, because when you are becoming this person, when you accumulate enough days, enough repetition, enough proof that you are this type of person, every time, let's say you put your shoes on and you go out for a run, you cast a positive vote towards the identity of a runner, And at the beginning, you don't believe you're a runner because you don't have a lot of proof that you're just starting. So that's why the habit tracker is going to be helpful to make sure you feel satisfied after you run. But after a certain amount of running sessions, you'll have to realize that your narrative inside of yourself is going to change, because you'll be like, hey, maybe I'm this kind of person because it's been, 2 months that I've been running almost every day. And then if you continue, you'll be like, well, yeah, I'm a runner because I've been running for the past 6 months, So this will become the satisfaction, because what does a runner do, Zoran? It runs. It just runs, So you're basically the satisfying part, the rewarding part, the 4th step of the habit loop is just acting the way that this type of person would act. This is the reward, If you're a writer, you just write, So, but at first, it's good to have an external reward, and it could be like you could. The only thing people have to be careful here in the 4th step is to make sure that the reward is not blocking the progression of the habit. Let's say like every time you go after I run, I'm gonna go eat some ice cream. That's not a good. It's not aligned with the identity you want to become, or let's show more and more. So you have to make sure your reward is aligned. So let's say you're working on being a more healthy person. You could say, well, once a month, if I achieve, if I go running 20 days out of 30, this is what I decide that is sustainable for my reality. Then I could go for a massage, at the spa, or a day at the spa, or go to the sauna, whatever that feels good for you. But this is very important key. You don't want to sabotage your progression. So you want to make sure that the reward is aligned with what you're trying to build consistency with.
Right. Yeah. Because exactly, and I love what you're sharing right now, because I'm a firm believer in the art of becoming, and we always evolve in our life, and we do change ourselves on the level of identity. And once when we choose that identity of becoming and emerging into that identity, then the new habit can actually come alongside with that identity, instead of us trying to push the goal and push the objective, but staying the same. Because you're absolutely right. If I am somebody who is identifying myself as a runner and I'm becoming a runner, then the whole habit of me running becomes easier, because I'm becoming that person, instead of I'm not actually a runner, but I'm pushing myself because I have to run, because this is good for my health, because I need to achieve the goal, and so on and so forth. But you're not actually emerging into that identity, right?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. And that's why on the graph, I don't know if you noticed, but there was the Omega logo, from the micro Omega. You hear very often this expression, the alpha and the omega. So it's the beginning and the end. So the omega in my universe represent the person you want to become. The end, the identity you try to let show and be more of. So when we base our habit on results, sometimes, for the first circle, the circle was full, it was blocked. Sometimes your beliefs about yourself block you from changing. And in the omega, there's an opening, because you have to always be open, just like you said, because we're always evolving. And this is an important thing to remember, absolutely, because my habits right now won't be the same habit in 2 years or in 5 years. We'll keep some, but we're always growing and changing, absolutely.
Right. So what I'm hearing when I'm coaching people a lot is that bad habits are more difficult to change than the good ones to emerge into. Is that your experience? That, for example, let's go extreme, even though smoking is not something that a lot of people do, but nowadays I can see a lot of people vaping, for example, I go around, travel around the world, especially young adults, I'm like, wow, I thought we got out of this smoking kind of a reality long time ago, but then suddenly everybody's vaping, and this is let's call it negative bad habit.
Yeah.
How is it easier to break free from that bad habit in relationship to creating a new positive habit that, like you just said, exercising or living healthier life or running? What is your experience on that? Because I hear people always say, oh, I can't. There is this, something is holding them back. We explain what they need to do. I'm just curious about your experience in working with people.
That's a very good question, and there's two parts to your question. The first part, we usually use bad habit and good habits, but the thing is, we need to understand there's no really bad habits. Okay, so the brain always wants the best for ourselves. So even if, let's say, somebody starts to smoke, you have 2 teenagers at school and they're in their exam, end of session exams. So one decides to go run with his soccer team when he's stressed out, and the other one decides to smoke cigarette with his friends, So the two actions, running and smoking, are achieving the same goal, reducing the stress. Okay, so it's positive overall when you think about it, because the stress is reduced. But over the long run, now everybody will agree that it was not aligned with being a healthy person, But so even like the worst kind of habits, there's always a reason why for the brain to go this way. So, but it's always because we want to, not feel something. We want to stop being. Usually, bad habits are created for 2 reasons, because our brain doesn't like the ambiguity when things are not clear, or it's not. Yes, just something is not clear. We don't like this feeling, and the other one is stress. We don't like to feel stressed. So usually, bad habits will become is a reason, one of the 2 reasons why we're going to develop bad habits. And now the second reason, why, the second part of your question is that bad habits have an immediate reward, and you pay the price later. Good habits, you pay the price now, sort of, and you have the reward after. That's why it's so easy, Razoran, to develop bad habits. It's like, just going on a shopping spree with a credit card. We like, we buy everything, and at the end of the month, we're like, oh shit, we have to, reimburse this amount of money. Pay exactly. But that's the thing. So that's why we feel it's so easy to put in place bad habits, because we have the reward right now. And companies have understand this part, the reward, the dopamine, and that's why when now Netflix, I was watching Netflix last week with my wife, and you don't have not even 5 seconds, and the second episode starts. If you're not paying attention, you're gonna get sucked into another hour of the show. You won't even notice it, So Netflix know that, like they want to keep you hooked. Same thing for Facebook. There's so many things on the design of Facebook, just like the pull to refresh, to see new content. This is a really gambling behavior. The neuroscientists are behind that, and they want us to spend as much time as possible on the platform. So the reward thing is a very important thing to understand, and especially in bad habits, the reward, we have it right away, and we only pay the consequence later. So if we want to break a bad habit, Zoran, to answer your question, we can use the opposite rules that are extracted from the 4 steps that I showed the graph. So the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. So remember the cue, I said you have to make it obvious for a positive habit. You want to have this reminder, this visual reminder, or this alarm, or whatever. You could do a sign, whatever. Be creative, but you have to see it to think about it. And now the opposite is true for a bad habit. You want to make it, you want to block it. You don't want to see it as much as possible. Okay, that's the first rule. The craving. So craving, you want to create this attraction. Well, for a bad habit, you want to make it, not as attractive as possible. The response, you want to make it, the action, like I said, if you want to stop doing something, make it as difficult as possible to do the action. So let's say you want to go to bed at 10 p.m., and not getting stuck on Netflix until 1 a.m. Like you could install a device, that shuts down the internet at 10 p.m. for everybody in the house, like even the teenagers or whatever. At 10 p.m. there is no internet. And if you really want to go on the internet, then you would need to go like replug this thing, or there's some, you could hide, your bag of popcorn or chips in the storage room, in the Christmas tree box, very far away. So if you are a Tuesday night and you want some chips, you'll be like, it's far, but you might not go. But if it's Friday or Saturday, it's your night with your spouse, then you gotta take 5 minutes to go get that bag, But you understand what I'm saying? So you have to be creative, but you have to increase the amount of friction for your bad behavior. And the reward, same thing, you have to be less satisfying. So the thing is, with the bad habits, you will need to replace it with something more aligned. So you cannot just we cannot erase these neuronal, paths or road or highways in our brain that we develop over time. But the good news is we can take and build new ones. There was a story about this that I read on a blog once about this girl who she was smoking as a teenager with her best friend. It was this guy. They were, during the weekend, they would go horseback riding, and they would smoke cigarettes, the two of them. And a couple of years later, she moved to another country, another city. So she stopped seeing her friend, and she stopped doing riding horses. And she reported that 30 years later, she had the opportunity to go back on a horse, but she didn't go back on horseback riding for 30 years. And when she hopped on the horse, she felt this urge to smoke. Oh, okay. Like because the highway, neuronal highway, was still in the brain, but because she was not with on the horse with her friend, she didn't feel the urge to smoke before that. But it just shows how powerful our brains are. But the good news, like I said, is you can create new pathways, and that's what you want to do when you want to replace a bad one. You need to think about, why are you binge eating, or why are you binge watching TV or whatever. Like, ask you, these questions can be difficult. You might want to have a coach or somebody that can help you with that. But that's the first thing I would do. Ask myself, what's driving me towards this behavior? What this behavior is achieving for me. With the information I shared today, you should be able to have a little bit of information or clarity about that, and then find something else that would achieve the same result. And start slow. Like I said, start slow, and this is how you'll be able to change your habits. And there's different things also. Like there's our environment. So the people around us, the groups we're with, our family members, these are very strong, our culture, very strong influence of habits. There's also the places where we spend most of our time, our office, our at home, how our things are designed. If you want to stop watching Netflix, you know what, remove the TVs. Or I don't have a TV in my house.
I don't have TV in my house either.
Yes, no, exactly. So if we're watching Netflix, it's on a laptop, so it's not as fun, but we can do it. But that's the thing. You have to be the architect of your own environment. It's very important to realize, okay, where are you wasting your time?
Exactly.
On a conversation I was talking about social media, I'm using a special app that is blocking some websites or some apps that I know that I'm easily driven to when I need to be productive or work on some things. I'm going to block these apps for a work session of 1, 2, 3 hours, and it will be impossible for me to go on these apps. So even if I go, it's just impossible. So I have to.
That's the good hack that I would really love you to repeat as well, because I know that Netflix is a big thing, eating habits, exercise habits, but I also think social media nowadays is so addictive, because I also know from my own research that activation of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system that is all like relaxing and soothing and caressing and moving your body moving your hand in a certain direction, which indicates and signifies to your body, now you're relaxing. And I can see a lot of the people, sometimes they reach out to social media when things are getting too intense, when they want to disconnect, when they want to relax, when it's too intense, or they don't know what to do in the situation. So how do you soothe yourself? And then they end up being in a swirl of social media, and 2 hours down the line, they're still scrolling. So I love what you shared, that we need to take a little bit more responsibility for ourselves to safeguard our own behaviors and to install the systems around us that would support us not to exercise certain things that we know they're not good for us, and then to focus on things that are good for us as well. So if you don't mind, Tony, please repeat this. You said there is an app that you can install and it blocks, and what does it do?
Yes, absolutely. So I have zero affiliation with this app. It just works very great for me, and I'm happy to share. So it's called Freedom app. It's an app you can Google Freedom app, and you will find it.
Yeah.
It's basically for me, it's installed on my iPhone and my iMac, and it basically blocks any website or application on my Mac or my iPhone, and it works with kind of a VPN thing. So like it's really impossible to stop a session. So like, be careful. If you might need your phone, like you will not be able to use something that you decided yet it would be blocked for the amount of time that you've decided. So this is what I like, because Apple started to, there's this feature of screen time. You could have a little pop-up, oh, you've been 1 hour on Instagram, but you can just say okay, and then you can go back on Instagram. So it's very not useful. But this app, like, you cannot bypass it. And it's basically, I love this because I'm protecting myself from my future self. When I set up a session, I'm being conscious about, I might get tired during that session. I might don't want to do it at some point. And if I try to go on Facebook, then I will just have this nice white butterfly on a green screen saying you are free, and I won't be able to access the website. So I love that. That's a way to help ourselves in the process of habit change. And social media, like you said earlier, is a very challenging thing. And now the studies of neuroscience, lots of neuroscience studies are coming out, and hopefully we'll see government actions also in Canada. I know there was discussion is starting to say that cell phones will hopefully be banned for kids under 16 years old. I think that would be a very service for humanity, because we see the increase in anxiety in teenager and young kids because of social media, of screen time, and this is I think very terrible. So we need to change that.
Absolutely. If you're a parent, that's a good call for action for you, and if you are somebody who loves himself, that's also a good call for action for you as well. So Tony, of course, we can talk about this for eternity. I think this is one of this topic. This is one of this topic that you can unfold more and more and more and more. So for the people who are listening to the podcast, we're going to reference Tony's, handles, also his website, and how you can reach him. And then how you can learn more from him, because I think this is one of these important points in our life when we really need to put attention to this. It's sometimes, in our human existence, we can just glide with certain behaviors, but I think that our life as it is right now, with the artificial intelligence, with digitalization of everything, with the stressors of life, with our demanding and challenging coexistence, is actually driving us to create a solid habits to be able to become the most functional human beings. And I know this for myself. Once when I've managed to sustain my positive habits of waking up in the morning, exercising, jogging, doing yoga, stretching, drinking water, making sure I'm away from the screen time, social time with my friends, playing with my dog, whatever positive habits that I know I need to put in place, my life completely transforms. And the beautiful thing that we know, Tony, both you and I, is that we all know what we need to do. It's just a matter of us doing this. If you ask the average human being, what do you need to do to be able to be content, satisfied, happy? What are the habits that you need to initiate? And what are the habits that you need to let go of? Everybody will tell you immediately, I know, right? I know. I need to do this, and this. I need to stop this, and this. And if I do this, I will be great, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, isn't it? So it's just about, creating that system and structure, starting, learning the science behind this, learning about your brain, learning about how do you set yourself for success, and just showing up in your life and doing it responsibly. This is from me. So Tony, any last few words from you? How would you like to leave audience with? Anything that you would love to share to feel complete with this recording today?
Yeah, thanks. So, the big takeaway is why, small habits matter. Why are they important, And I would say, it's not because it will allow you to be in the best shape of your life. It's not because it will allow you to have the amount of money you want in your life. It's not because it will allow you to have the relationships you want in your life. Although, yes, it will help you to have all this. But the real reason why the small habits are very important is because they allow you to become the person you want to be. And that's when I realized that, I was like, oh, wow, okay, if I can master the subject of habit change, then I will be able to be the person that I want whenever I want and achieve whatever I want in my life. And that was a real breakthrough for me. So never forget that. And also just start. The thing that I said earlier about the importance of just starting, being consistent with starting. And this is very counterintuitive, I know, but, use a tracker, see your progress, just be this person who starts for 2 minutes doing this action. You can scale with 1% every day if you want. You will see it's gonna be very small increments, and you'll at the end of the year. Let's say you start with 2 minutes walking. If you respect this 1% increment every day, you'll be walking for, I think, is 76 minutes in day 365. But at the beginning, it will be very, very smooth. So focus on just being this person who starts doing what you want in a very small effort, very small amount of friction, but do it consistently, and you'll see that building habit can be very easy and can go really smooth. But you need to know, like you said, you have to have this knowledge, and you have to be able to implement your own system. And that's why the art, the science and art of habit change is that it's very personalized thing. And that's what I realized. There's no one size fit all thing. Do this and you'll be good. Unfortunately, it's very, very, very personal. Depends on our DNA and our environment and our family, a lot of stuff.
Of course, support structure, everything. Again, but what I love about this is that what I said, Tony, that we all in this together, and all human beings, and the human beings they have certain operating functionality. As you see, Tony mentioned hormones, stimulations, reward. We all have that. If I walk into my house and I see the jar of the chocolate cookies, I would like, yay, because my brain will remember, oh my God, this is so good. I remember all these times when I did that. And also, keep on investigating, Tony, these micro movements, micro habits. And I love that you micro to macro, that sometimes it's small, tiny steps. And I see a lot of people, like a typical thing, they want to make a New Year's resolutions, and then I will do this. I would lose 100 kilos, and I would run, I would create, and then, a few days or a few weeks or a few months down the road, they do nothing. They go back. So set yourself for success to micro movements, right?
Absolutely. And you know what, guys? If I was elected the king of procrastination, and now I'm helping people build consistency, anybody can do it. I reassure you, you can do it. Anybody can do it. I believe in you guys.
Thank you, Tony, for believing in all of us. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you so much for your presence. For the audience, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to TNM Coaching Unplugged. We're super happy for our dedicated community of people who are learning and growing alongside with us. Today's show was really inspiring to me. I hope it's going to be inspiring for you. It will get you to the next level of yourself by creating positive new habits, letting go of the old habits. Keep on sharing us, liking us, and share it with your family and friends. This is a good one. Thank you so much, Tony, once again, and we'll see each other soon.
Zoran, thank you so much, and thanks to the listeners. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed recording. Thanks so much. All the best.